The Stanley Cup playoffs are officially here. Best on best competing for the greatest trophy in all of sports. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel as we do annually here. Today I will be covering the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs and making my predictions in two videos, with this one being the Eastern Conference and sometime tomorrow being the Western Conference. Now, all of these matchups have been set, with just one not officially being done, but it seems like Montreal has essentially locked this down, so we should be good to go with these predictions. Now, as you can see, it's beautiful, it's sunny out, it's the perfect day to talk some hockey. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our first matchup, the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New Jersey Devils. Of all the series for the Eastern Conference, this one feels like the most decisive in my opinion, especially given all of the injuries that New Jersey has experienced as of late. But for Carolina versus New Jersey, I think this one's pretty straightforward. I have the Hurricanes coming out on top in this one. New Jersey has struggled to generate 5v5 offense, which may see some improvements with Dougie Hamilton coming back into the lineup, but it still isn't enough for me to be convinced that they're going to be better than the Canes. If any team lost their best player the way that New Jersey has lost Jack Hughes and somehow stayed afloat, then we would be giving them props. But given the ceiling of this Devils team, I think that them getting into the playoffs is enough to prove that they've had a legitimate season. And while expectations might be high for some Devils fans, you gotta be realistic here. They just don't have enough, and their system right now just isn't going to be good enough to compete against that hard physical defense of the Carolina Hurricanes. Goaltending will also play a big role in this series. Markstrom has struggled as of late and will need to be near perfect if the Devils have any chance of winning, but his numbers recently haven't been all that awesome. And on the opposing side, Anderson can be incredible, but his health is always going to be a question mark. So will the Carolina Hurricanes have to use Kochetkov more in this series? Will they tandem a bit? There's been some conversations around that, but in the end, I just don't think it's going to matter. Carolina comes in waves, and I just don't think New Jersey is going to have enough in this series to withstand that storm, if that's a fun enough pun for you guys. So in this one, I have the Carolina Hurricanes pulling out in 5 or 6. I think New Jersey might steal 1 or 2 just because they're a gritty team, but in the end, Carolina will be moving on to the second round. This next one feels nearly impossible to predict, but we're going to try to do it anyways because I do think one of these teams will have a bit of an edge in this one. The Battle of Florida this time around, the Florida Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning. On paper, this is a conference finals matchup, not a first rounder, but let's talk about both teams. Tampa Bay has been playing some incredible hockey as of late. Kucherov putting his name back into the Hart Trophy race. Vasilevsky looking like his past self, making a strong final push as a Vezina candidate. Jake Gensel looking better than advertised since signing that deal. And Brandon Hagel has just been a beast. They likely will have more momentum going into the playoffs and probably more energy, considering the Panthers are coming off 2 back-to-back finals runs and the fact that it's incredibly difficult to defend a title. However, the Panthers being fully healthy should not be counted out here. They made big additions, adding Seth Jones and Brad Marchand, which cannot be understated, and they will likely have Barkov and Tkachuk fully healthy for round 1. I think this is going to be a tough one to pick, but in the end, I actually have the Tampa Bay Lightning just pulling out in 7. To me, they're playing some of their best hockey. They have some really strong experience themselves going back-to-back with their cup victories. They have the coaching, the defense, the goaltending, the offense. Through and through, I think they're the best team of the Eastern Conference, so I got Tampa Bay pulling out this year in 7, mainly because of fatigue and the fact that I think they're just going to be able to get one back on the Panthers after losing in the first round last year. The Battle of Ontario is next, and this is by far the best Eastern Conference matchup in my opinion. The rivalry between these two teams and the fact that you guys forced me to root for the Leafs this year in that poll I made after the Bruins were eliminated, so thanks for that. It's always fun rooting for your direct rival as a Boston fan, guys. Appreciate you all. But let's get into this matchup and see who's going to have the clear edge in this one. Toronto seals their division title. Ottawa breaks their long playoff drought, and we have one of the biggest rivalry in sports, so you know there's going to be a ton of motivation from both sides. But beginning with Ottawa, they come into this series after sweeping the Leafs in the regular season, but still are underdogs in this series. However, I wouldn't sleep on the Sens. They're a gritty, tough, physical team to play against, and now they finally have a goalie that they can rely on to back them through a playoff series. But when we consider the Toronto Maple Leafs, the pressure that they're going to have in this one, I think it's finally time that the Leafs are going to live up to their momentum and seize the moment a bit. They have better forwards than Toronto. Their defense, it's not as good as Ottawa's, but it is respectable for the postseason. And goaltending, while I do think Allmark has the slight edge, I think Stolarz is going to be able to compete with him. I think he's been just that good this year. But the way I see the Leafs winning this is through their coaching. I think Berube is stellar. He has the pedigree, and I think he's going to be able to get this team to be motivated for this first round series. And if Toronto can somehow get past Ottawa, I think they're going to be a much deadlier team than people are expecting. Specifically with their forward group though, I think Toronto has the edge here. All of the core four players are playing their best season that we've seen probably throughout their career, outside of Auston Matthews, who has been banged up for most of the year but still has over 30 goals. And with Matthew Knies playing at the elite level he has been lately, I just think Toronto is going to be able to pot more goals than Ottawa in this one and somehow squeak out. I have Toronto winning this one in 7. Again, it's going to be close. You guys could go either way in my opinion, but for this one, I'm taking the Leafs. And the last one we're going to talk about here today is the Washington Capitals versus the Montreal Canadiens. And this one, fellas, this is my upset of the first round. The Habs have a ton of momentum going into this series after wildly overachieving this season. Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki have looked awesome this year and have something to prove after being snubbed from the Four Nations. Lane Hudson has been more than advertised and will likely win the Calder Trophy. And now you add Ivan Demidov to the mix. This is just simply a young up-and-coming team that has nothing to lose. Meanwhile, the Washington Capitals, since reaching that Ovechkin goals record, have been ice cold. 3-7-0 in their last 10 games, and despite having the experience and the makeup to be a legitimate contender, I just think they're going to have a hard time beating a Montreal team that is just so quick and has so much to play for here. Call me crazy, call me stupid, but in this series, I have the Montreal Canadiens winning in 7. It could really go either way. I think it's a good matchup for both teams, but it's really just going to come down to who wants it more, which I guess comes down in every series. In my opinion, though, I just think that the youth and the speed of this team is going to trump whatever experience that the Capitals have, which I personally don't think they have a lot of, with most of these guys not being on those teams that were consistently competing at that high level in the playoffs. But in the end, it's going to be difficult for Montreal, but I'm taking them in this series. Habs fans, I'm rooting for you here. But these are my predictions for the first round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. This is the Eastern Conference video. The Western Conference one will be out tomorrow. So if you guys don't want to miss that one, make sure you give this one a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And hey, as always, comment what you think about this video below. If you guys agree with my takes, go ahead, give me some praise. If you don't, you can roast me as well, whatever you're feeling like today. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you guys in the next episode.